That's me, the one with the brown hair. Well, when I had hair. The other guys are my friends. And this is a project that we shot on film. Yeah, like the stuff that comes on reels. That was way back in the day. And if you're wondering why I don't have a gun too, well, it's because we couldn't afford one. I mean, film was expensive. This is part of a project that would get me accepted into a university. How is this all related to MS, you may be asking? Well, let me explain. And by the way, did I do a good job of making this sound like the voiceovers from the Wonder Years? I hope so.
Let's get into it. I'm Cliff, and this is Life with MS. All right, everybody, so here it is. Ooh, well, that's not it. It's a copy of it. I think I have it in storage or something. I don't know. I couldn't find it, so I found a picture that I took of it when I got it. And I'm pretty proud of it. It was very expensive. I did learn a lot, but what I learned about the process of learning with multiple sclerosis became even more important than the actual degree itself. Okay, we gotta back up to the year 2000. Yeah, I'm kinda old. I went to university in Southern California, and I applied and I applied and I applied and I called every single day, and I had learned from an early age that if you really want something, you have to show that you really want something. And I didn't have the best grades, and the institution I had applied to really liked good grades. But what I did have was a really awesome demonstration of the things I could do. In this case, it was a media arts school, and I wanted to get in and do directing and writing for film. For most of my life, I had been doing weekend projects, making all kinds of different films with my family and my friends, and I had done some really fun stuff, and I sent that to the school and said, you need to look at this. My grades are not that great, but this stuff's pretty good. And they said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Come on down. You're on probation. Don't screw up, and you're going to do well. And I eventually ended up being on the dean's list, and which I think is good, and getting my degree there. But, okay, here's the kicker. It took 20 years. And you're thinking, 20 years? Okay, not all 20 years. I was there from 2000 to 2002, and it was an awesome experience. And I left just 4 units shy of graduating, which is crazy. I think I had like 160 units or something combined with my junior college and then my university. And here's why I left 4 units shy. And this is where MS starts to begin to creep into the story. You see, I had a really good GPA at university. I loved going to school there. I learned so much. The people were great. I was on an athletic team. It was just one of the best experiences of my life. And it was a small university at the time. Now it's much larger. Chapman University, you may or may not have heard of it, but they've grown a lot. So why did I leave without this piece of paper? Well, again, it comes down to those 4 little measly units. I couldn't get them. And why couldn't I get them? They were a math credit that I could just not achieve. I had taken algebra 6 times at my junior college and failed it every single time. Yes, there was a lack of me actually paying attention, and there was a lack of me applying myself. You know, I was working full time and just out of high school and the whole thing. But as I got more and more into it and I kept failing and failing more, I did apply myself. And what I would learn is that no matter what I would do, I just could not retain the information. Now, this is around the year 2000, a full 18 years before my diagnosis. If you've seen my other videos, I talk about my early symptoms all the way back in high school. Memory being one of them. So anyway, I've always fancied myself pretty good at math. practical math. In fact, I spent a lot of my career in engineering. Go figure, but I couldn't pass algebra. And I also have patents with products I've developed using only engineering. And I've built a lot of anatomical models for other companies using engineering. But algebra on paper just didn't make sense to me. It made sense in the moment, but the second I had to apply it in a theoretical test kind of environment where I had to recall everything, bam, it was gone. It was just like it vaporized in my brain. And I kept repeating this message to my instructors. I kept saying, I'm telling you, I'm really applying myself here. I'm going to tutoring, I'm trying all this. I just cannot remember the stuff and I don't know why. And they said, well, you're not paying attention. Yeah, there's probably some truth to that, right? We never pay attention, all of our attention. When you're taking like 18 to 21 units, you can't pay all your attention to one class. And for us with MS, we have very limited bandwidth. So I'm going to fast forward a lot here. I leave that school 4 units shy thinking I'll go back and finish those 4 units or finish those 4 units at another school somewhere and transfer them and finish my degree. And I did attempt at junior college several times for that class, and I failed it and I failed it and I failed it. And it was just destroying my GPA. I had moved back to the Bay Area where people didn't really care about your degree as much as they cared about your ability. And I had a lot of ability. I was in with the right crowd and we were doing great things in the startup environment. Now let's fast forward to 2018 when I get my diagnosis. It's 2018, almost 2019. I finally get a diagnosis after years of chasing it, and COVID hits. And I'm thinking back in my mind, man, I really want to finish this degree, because at the time I thought I would like to make a transition into radiology. I was contracting for a company that specialized in radiology, and I fell in love with radiology. It was so cool. And now that I'd been diagnosed with MS, I thought, what a good combination. So I was going to go back to school and do something in radiology, but I had to finish that 4-year degree in order to get into the next program. So I started taking math again, thinking I can do this. I know more about myself now. It didn't work. I missed passing the fundamental math test by 1 point. It was a 2-hour test. I missed it by 1 point. You would say that's a narrow margin and I should probably go back and do it. But then what I discovered as I got more into radiology, working with these companies in radiology, these people never slept. I mean, it was a highly aggressive field in a place where they didn't have a lot of radiologists to begin with. So the radiologists that were there were working insane hours. And I realized with my MS, that was not going to be a realistic expectation for myself. Like, I cannot stay up all night. I cannot put in hundreds of hours. I can't put in 70 hours a week like I used to be able to. I need to rethink my approach, but I still wanted to finish that degree. So I called my university in Southern California. I said, what do I have to do this? Here's the situation. I could just take a math class, but I'm not going to pass it. And my MS has progressed to a point to where on most mornings, I can't even put a sentence together. So to think that I'm going to step back into some kind of statistics class or algebra 2 and be successful is delusional at best. So my university has a program, and they worked with me on this. They managed to give me classes after my neurologist got involved and basically said, yeah, his brain's kind of a mess. Can we figure something else out? And they worked with me on it. And I ended up doing a couple of more classes and filling in those credits. Now, it did take 2 years from start to finish. So how does this all apply? What does this long story really apply to here? And it's that MS has taught me not to give up, but that I have to relearn how I learn. And that's how I'm going to be successful. So I wrote 5 tips that I've learned from my MS, and I love to learn. I am fascinated with learning new things. In fact, during the pandemic, I just went crazy, and I got my certificate in anatomy of chest, neck, abdomen, and pelvis. Introduction to marketing. This one was fun. The global financial crisis. Ooh, this one was good. Patient safety and quality improvement. MRI fundamentals. The fundamentals of immunology, innate immunity, and B cell function. Now, we all know about B cells. This was very interesting. And this one was good too for people that are curious about what's going on with their MS. This is the fundamental of neuroscience for neuroimaging. My point here is I love to learn. The issue is I don't learn like the rest of the world. And I had to find my own way. So let's get into this. Number 5, there's always a way. MS will make it more difficult, but there is always a way to achieve something if I want it bad enough. That's what it taught me. I have got to find my route, and it's not going to look like other people's. I'm not going to achieve the goals that society has put before us doing it the same way other people have done before, because MS just doesn't really permit that in my case. Number 4, and I think this is true of most people with MS. With MS, I am a square peg in a round hole society. What do I mean by that? And this kind of ties back to number 5. I can't achieve the same thing other people achieve doing it the way that society has built them up to do it. Like studying for an exam for endless amounts of hours and being able to recall that information, or being able to walk 2 miles through an airport terminal to get to the next airplane I have to hop on after traveling for 8 hours at the end of the day. Like, most people can do that. People with MS, not so much. I'm not expecting society to accommodate me. At the same time, I have to set my expectations that there are just some things that I can't do like other people can do. And that's it. In my last 8 to 5 job, I used to sneak off at my lunch break and go park my car somewhere and literally sleep from noon until 1 or whenever I woke up in my car to get enough rest to finish the day. I didn't know I had MS at the time, and I remember asking myself, how are these people getting through the day from 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock without being insanely exhausted? Number 3, create and document strategies that work for me. Now, this is huge. For example, with this degree, the only way I was going to manage to finish that was if I could find some courses that would work around the weirdness and the nuances of my MS. In this case, they were online classes, so I could take a quiz or whatever, and then I could go sleep for a little while and get up and finish the class online, whatever. If I had to do that, drive to the university, find parking, walk to class, sit down, listen to people, get up, go back to the car, sit in traffic, come home. There's just no way. I would be so dead, I wouldn't have remembered anything I had learned that day. That strategy of being able to look at things online and be able to step away from it, recharge, and come back is fundamental to my success with programs like that. And also, in number 3, one of my strategies I've developed is I've learned that I learn better by doing than watching or listening. Now, the watching and listening will get me introduced to whatever it is that needs to happen. But literally, I need to put my hands on things to make stuff work. And I should have seen that years ago. I've been developing and inventing stuff since I was 5 years old, because that's how I learned. I had to literally experience it. And that's how I retain information. And that's also why I'm really deep in the film and television world, and have been for most of my life, is because it allows me to put my hand on a camera and tell a story and be involved with a story. I'm experiencing the action around me, and while that's super fatiguing, it's also making a memory that I can recall. Number 2, my degree taught me that gatekeepers have their own experiences, and finding the right gatekeeper to help you navigate your way through their system is key to being successful. And in my case, with my last degree, I ran across someone that ran a program inside my university that had a very similar experience to me with my MS, and they became my champion in pushing my agenda through academia and making it happen. Without her, I don't think I would have succeeded, and I think she was key to making it work. So gatekeepers are key, and when they have an experience or they can relate to what it is you're going through, it's incredible what they'll go through to make it happen for you. Get to know the gatekeepers. Number 1, with MS, there's a lot of times when we say, there's just no way I can do that. And that can be good. That's coming to terms with our reality. But I like to believe that there's always a way, and it's down to my creativity to find my way. I have to be patient in that, I got to let my body do what it's going to do, but I got to be persistent in also achieving what I want to do. And last, on that number 1 of we will find a way by being creative, I think we have to remind ourselves that we are super accustomed to being very uncomfortable, and most people are not. If you put us in an uncomfortable situation, we can deal. We have that tool set. It sucks for us, but we can do it. And that is a huge leg up when trying to succeed, at least in my experience. Would it be worth it now if I were just going into university? I don't know. The cost is insanely high, and as these are unforgivable loans, I would really have to think about that. But knowing what I know about my MS now, I would definitely lengthen my runway so I wouldn't put so much stress on my body. And that would probably prevent a lot of damage on my body. But what the degree taught me is those of us with chronic illnesses really have to lead the way in achieving what we want to do. We can't rely on other people. And it's great when you have other people that are there to support you. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to figure it out and make it work. And I think that's good. I think it's good for me to have to do that problem solving. It keeps my brain active, and it also takes a lot of the stress off of my MS. I don't have to think about my symptoms all day when I'm thinking about other things like, how in the world am I going to achieve finishing these courses when I can't even remember my address some mornings, right? And how am I going to work around that? And so I start building these strategies in my mind. I think we get really good at that. Those of us with MS, we have those tools. We get good at dealing with that. And I just write a lot of stuff down and I take my time to do it. So I guess in closing, I learned to manage my time and my effort to actually be able to incorporate some learning within this environment of MS and academia, and it worked out. It was not easy, however, I managed to achieve it. Comment below if you've had a similar experiences. What have you learned? What has your MS taught you about learning? I hope this brings some value to some people looking for some answers or some ideas. My name is Cliff. This is Life with MS, and I'm out.
That's the place. Let's do it. Gotcha.
This party's by invitation only.
What kind of a party is it?
Potluck.
That's good, because this guy right here brought the cookies. They're about to punch.
Alright guys, you can walk out of here alive, you can crawl out dead.